Guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Abeka's preschool curriculum for 2 and 3-year-olds. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about these language development cards and why I love them. Why they are pretty much my favorite part of this curriculum. So, I'm going to give you my first impression first. And my first impression when I opened this packet was to be extremely overwhelmed. So when you order this curriculum, you order these cards, which are humongous, by the way. And you also order the parent guide. If you order just these and not this curriculum will not be beneficial to you. It will be useless because all of the lessons are in here. So if you only have the cards, you have no idea what you're supposed to be teaching. You have a pretty picture of Israel or something like that, and you have no bearing for what the actual lesson is supposed to be. So definitely make sure you pick up the language development teacher guide as well as the cards. Trust me, do it. And I'm gonna say one of the negatives of this curriculum is the price. If you are unfamiliar with Abeka, they are a box Christian curriculum company. They have streaming video curriculum. They sell whole grade packages for curriculum. And they were one of the few companies I found that started preschool at 2. And at 2, I knew my daughter was ready for a full curriculum. So this is pricey. These cards, I will list the prices. I'll have them pop up here. I want to say the cards were around $40, and this was probably another $20, just for the language development part. And there are other books that go along with this curriculum as well. So I actually hesitated getting these from the get-go because of the price and because looking at the previews, you can see they're very advanced topics for a 2-year-old, which is also why it intimidated me when I first opened it. Some of the cards are Thomas Edison and Israel, Mexico, Holland. You learn about all these countries. You actually learn their placements on maps and geography. There are, let me see, what else is in here that I thought was crazy? Let's see, you have George Washington Carver. You have, I'm looking for some of the more crazy ones. Alexander Graham Bell and the telephone. Like, you have some really advanced topics in here that I personally know I did not learn until at least middle elementary school. And honestly, as we go through these, I'm still learning things. I will read a lesson to my daughter and later that night ask my husband, did you know this? Like, did I miss that day in school? Did you know this? My husband's like, no, I didn't know that. So this is a really advanced language arts curriculum for a preschooler, but it's also really accessible. So I was very intimidated by it when I first saw it. I didn't know what to do with these cards. Our office was not set up like this. I didn't know how to display them and make them work, which is actually part of why we ended up redecorating in here. But I ended up loving them. And I'm gonna say at first, I totally blew them off. They were the last part of the curriculum. They were the last part of the day. They were the last thing I wanted to do because I didn't think they were going to benefit my daughter because I thought she was too young. I assumed she wouldn't comprehend the topics in the curriculum designed for her age, but that was just my brain. When I started prioritizing this curriculum, so this is done on Wednesdays and Fridays, and now when we come into this classroom or office, whatever you want to call it, on Wednesdays and Fridays, this is the first thing we do. I hang them up behind me on the wall here weekly. We don't have any this week because there aren't any cards for this week. But I hang them up behind me, and the first thing we do, Wednesday and Fridays, we pull down that day's card, and I read the lesson. And guys, she's actually learned things. She listens. She learns. She can tell you things about things. I'm like, why do you know that? And it's from this. So give this curriculum a try if you are on the fence and if you are like me and a little bit intimidated and a little bit like, there's no way a 2-year-old's doing that. Like, I was counting to 5 when I was 2, like if that, right? give it a chance because your kids can do it. And I know my daughter enjoys it. My daughter comes in here and asks to do this. And they make it more accessible. I feel like the words in the book are what makes this more accessible. So, all right, so here's card 51. This is one that we would be using for the letter M because it's all based on the letter of the week. So this is mice, and it is just this page you read. So you would read the looking and thinking. You would read if your child is still into it. After reading this first column, if your child is still paying attention and engaged, you do the learning more. Sometimes we don't do that. Usually we do. After you do the learning more, you can do the questions. Personally, this part I skip. I find this impossible for my 2-year-old. She was speech delayed. She has graduated speech therapy, but she still doesn't have the vocabulary to answer these questions at age 2. So for example, the question about mice, why do mice need whiskers? And that's to feel their way through dark places. My 2-year-old's not gonna come up with that. So I do tend to skip these questions, at least this year. However, next year when she is 3.5 going on 4, I will be attempting to ask these questions and see if she can answer them. And then on the back, you have another half a page. And this is a learning game and also some let's have fun. So for the learning game, for this one, you would draw a mouse on a chalkboard and let the child feed the mouse some cheese. You can use a yellow sponge or you can use real cheese the child can also eat. So I always try to incorporate these if it is something we have around the house or something that I have prepared well enough to have gone and bought. And we have found a lot of things that my daughter really enjoys doing. And then you also have the let's have fun section, which this is let the child pretend to be a mouse, hide pieces of yellow sponge, cheese around the room, and let them pretend to be a mouse and find it. And then, yeah, so it just has different little fun activities that you can do to incorporate it. I do not do all of these. I pick 1, maybe 2. Usually I'll pick a game, and if there's a food activity, I'll pick the food activity and let her have a snack. But that's totally optional. I don't feel like any of this has to be done in this curriculum, but it's fun. There's also then a poem over here, and I don't ever do that. I never read the poems. That's still something I just struggle with, is poetry. I struggle with it, so I don't read it. Maybe next year I will. This year I don't put the emphasis on that. So what I love about this curriculum is that it is quick, open and go. You just open it up to the page that it tells you in the teacher guide or to the card number. You read it. It's all literally written for you. You don't have to interpret anything. You don't have to put your own spin on anything. Literally, and the questions that it tells you to ask, if you are pointing to something or saying something, it will bold. It bolds the question so that you know to point at the card. So I really like that. Like I said, it's super self-explanatory, and that is what I like. It is open and go, and for a new homeschooling parent, it's really easy to get into the gist of and to get into the role with. So that is my pros with this. I also love that the cards are super colorful. I'll show you the back of this. I'm not gonna take these all out because they're really hard to get back in. But like, this is the Israel card. I'm angling it to try to get the sun off. But they are super colorful and give my child a lot to look at. And in the lesson plans, when it is bolded, it'll tell you to point to the map, point to the little girl, point to the goat. They'll tell you what to point to and what to talk about and where you're using these cards. So really enjoy these. I will say there are a few cons that I have noticed, and one of them is the price factor. I do think the price of these cards, you know, they are very good quality cards. They are very nice quality. I do think the price is exorbitant for not having like any words on them. Like, it's a picture of a fire department and a picture of some sheep. So I do think the price is a bit exorbitant and could preclude people from being able to purchase this curriculum. That is a downside. Fortunately, we were not in the position when I bought this where buying something of this price would be unattainable. It was okay for us, but I know for a lot of people, they would be priced out of buying this curriculum. And that kind of stinks because there are not a lot of options for 2-year-olds. I think I saw one other. I think Horizons has a 2-year-old program. I might be making that up. But I think they have a 2-year-old program. I know they have a 3-year-old program. So there are very few options when it comes to this. So it kind of stinks that one of the few options is priced so high. One of the other negatives of this, to me, is that they are so big. And I feel like this is a plus and a negative. It's a plus because it really helps hold my child's attention. But it's a negative because, one, they're extremely hard to display. I've tried so many ways to display these. If you remember my old office, if you've been around my channel for a while, we used to have a large built-in desk. And literally, I just had these like in a pile on my desk, and I would try my best to like hold them up like this while reading the guide like this, and I didn't have enough hands, and there was nowhere on the wall to hang it. There was no way to display them nicely. So when we redid this desk, I put in hooks back here, and we had issues with that too because at first I just used command hooks, but the cards would end up bowing and then they would fall out. Like before the end of the week, the cards would bow and fall on the floor. Now we use binder clips and thumbtacks, and that seems to be working, but it is also a bit more high maintenance because you have to make sure, you know, the binding clip is on there straight and it, you know, hangs straight and all that. So sometimes the wall doesn't look as pretty as I want it to. But I also feel that that's a negative, not just because they're hard to display. They are extremely hard. I'm not going to say impossible. They are hard to travel with. I live in North Florida. So we have hurricane season, and I will fully admit I am one of those people who evacuates the second she hears there's a hurricane coming towards her house. Anyone else like that? Just me? I'm that person. So to pack up her school, the rest of her schoolwork is super easy. It's in a Loctite box. Throw it in the car and go. But with the big flashcards like this, it's just a bit more difficult to have to grab and run. And I know a lot of people don't think like that. Like a lot of people aren't thinking we're gonna have a natural disaster and have to evacuate our house really quickly. Maybe I'm one of the few who thinks like that. But these are just a bit impractical in size. I wish they sold them in a smaller size. I know for the kindergarten curriculum, they have the big cards like this for social studies, but they also have a miniature version that is geared towards the homeschooling families. So I wish they had done that with these. It would also give you a more affordable price point and resolve some of that other issue if they had a smaller option. But all in all, that's pretty much the only negatives I can really think of in this curriculum, other than my self-imposed initial objection and fear of it. And I don't feel like that was a negative on the curriculum. I think that was a negative on me because I was scared of it. So that was on me. But yeah, now we love this. We come into the schoolroom. It's the first thing we do on Wednesdays and Fridays. My daughter asks to do school. She'll be in the living room, come in and go, school, school. And she'll come in here and run and get in her chair. So this curriculum has been great for her. If you have the ability to check out Abeka's preschool curriculum, I highly recommend you look at it. And if you don't like all of it, there's also arts and crafts, there's numbers, there's letters, which I'll be touching on next actually. I'll be doing these cards, which are the animal alphabet friends. I will be reviewing those in my next video. So stay tuned if you want to see that. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and you will see that next. But all in all, I recommend this curriculum and I would highly recommend checking it out. But if you don't like the rest of it, if your kid's not into coloring and you see there's a ton of coloring pages, which to me is kind of a bit of a downside. My daughter doesn't love them. But I highly recommend you at least check out this part, the language development, for a portion of whatever curriculum you decide to use or whatever you decide to do with your child for preschool. I highly recommend just checking this out because there's so much in here to learn. And it's stuff that, I mean, really, you wouldn't learn until at least middle elementary school in most places, yet here it is at an attainable level for a 2-year-old. I love it. I love that. I just love it. So I will have this curriculum link down below. I highly recommend, like I said, you at least check out the language development cards and lesson plans. I swear you can't go wrong with them. The rest of the curriculum, I think honestly some of it you could do without. You could do it from stuff from the Dollar Tree or from Target. But this part, I can't recreate this. I can't. I can recreate number sheets. I can recreate letter sheets, but I can't recreate this. So I highly recommend you guys check out this curriculum if you have a 2 or 3-year-old and are looking to just develop their language and expand their knowledge. Go to Abeka and check this one out. But that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. As I said, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below if you are new. I will be doing the Animal Alphabet Friends cards next. Give this a thumbs up if you're enjoying these Abeka reviews and homeschool curriculum reviews. And comment down below and introduce yourself if you are new here. I love getting to know all of my new subscribers, and I would love to get to know you. So I hope I will see you all in my next video on Sunday. Bye guys.